This is Greg Locke yelling into his microphone, as you can see here. He's about to debate the Flat Earth conspiracy with Dean Odell. This is not part one. If you haven't seen the others, don't sweat it. This stands independently of the rest. I'll give context if it's missing. Greg Locke got up here and argued against the Flat Earth, surprisingly. I thought for sure he would be in favor of it, since he's like a proponent of the moon landing is a hoax and all that other stuff. Anyway, he argued against the Flat Earth from a biblical perspective. Like, he argued against the Bible verses that they used to support it. So let's give this a listen, see what he has to say. And while we listen, we're going to play some Metroid Fusion. Should just be in the background, won't bother you too much if you've never played it before.
Now, if you believe the spinning ball heliocentric nonsense, you believe that we have an iron molten core that is hotter than the sun, like 13,000 degrees.
No, hotter than the surface of the sun. The center of the Earth is, yes.
With liquid magma around it.
You mean the stuff that comes out of the Earth, like when volcanoes erupt? Yeah, go on.
And now they say there's even water around down in there somewhere.
Who's they? I haven't heard that. I mean, maybe. But I don't understand why that's like so surprising to this dude. What?
Does any of that sound like a foundation? Or stable or solid? No. No, in fact, they say
tectonic plates basically float on top of all of that stuff, the magma and everything, thanks to a variety of qualities within physics. So, yeah.
Here's their example. They say we have a lead nickel core. Haven't you ever checked the melting point of lead and nickel? It's way lower than 13,000 degrees. But of course they'll say, well, it's because of pressure.
Wait, the melting point of lead and nickel is lower than 13,000 degrees. Yes, that's correct. It is lower than 13,000 degrees. What's he getting at? I don't understand. Like, is he saying that? Wait, what? Let me just reverse and hear one more time. I don't understand.
Stable or solid? No.
Hold on. Okay, here.
Or stable or solid? No. No, in fact, they say that here's their example. They say we have a lead nickel core. Haven't you ever checked the melting point of lead and nickel? It's way lower than 13,000 degrees. But of course they'll say,
well, I don't. Why is that a problem? Yes, 13,000 degrees is what the core of the Earth is, roughly, right? Let me just verify these facts. Iron and nickel. I don't see anything about lead here. And I'm reading here it's 10,800 degrees Fahrenheit. What is he getting at? I don't understand. Pressure, for the record, does affect melting points. When there's more pressure, boiling point or melting point or whatever goes up. And when there's less pressure in a vacuum, it goes down. So, for example, we get crude oil, right? We pull crude oil out of the ground. And from crude oil, we derive kerosene, gasoline, butane, and a billion other things. We even derive petroleum jelly from crude oil. How do we get that? Because the boiling point of all of those things are really close together. At like 200 and I don't remember what the numbers are. 213 degrees, you get kerosene. 212 degrees, you get butane, or something to that effect. We'll look in a second. So how do you boil one out but not the other? And the answer is fractional distillation. So basically, when you're distilling something, when you're doing a distillation process, what you have to do is put it in a boiling flask, or put it in a big pot, right? And that pot sits inside something else that has like oil in it. And you heat that oil up to a specific temperature, and now the oil is a uniform temperature across the entire area. And it heats whatever you have up in that boiling flask to a very specific temperature. But unfortunately, the boiling points are so close together, you can't be absolutely sure that you're boiling out only kerosene or only butane or only gasoline or whatever. So you put it in an so you put it in a vacuum environment or a pressurized environment. I don't remember which one they do. Maybe it's pressurized. And that changes the boiling point and makes the boiling points of each product much more pronounced and distinct and easier to distill. So when you heat it up, it boils out, right? And you put it in a condenser. You connect a condenser to the boiling flask, and the condenser has like water running in a little swirly thing down it to keep it cold. When the steam comes through the condenser and touches the cold water, it condenses it back into a liquid. So it goes from boiling gas to liquid form and goes into like a trough or something. If it's in a vacuum, you can boil it out in more precise ways or in a pressurized environment. So yeah, vacuums and pressure do change boiling points. I don't know what he's getting at. What's his point here? Iron and lead melt at a certain temperature. The Earth's the Earth's temperature, the core of the Earth, is hotter than that. I don't understand what his problem is with this. Oh, and there's a ton of pressure. You know what else is interesting? In the deepest depths of the ocean, there's something called Ice 7. Ice 7 is basically, there's so much pressure that the water becomes ice at a normal temperature. Seriously, it's crazy. It's because the pressure is forcing the molecules into a specific shape. Because there's so much pressure. I don't know. I'm just so fascinated by this stuff. I went to school for chemistry for a little while. And man, I just love chemistry. Anyway, sorry to get off on that little tangent. I don't know what he's saying here. I don't know why any of this is a problem. Listen again.
Here's their example. They say we have a lead nickel core.
No, iron nickel core.
Haven't you ever checked the melting point of lead and nickel?
I mean, I just checked it.
It's way lower than 13,000 degrees. But of course they'll say, well, it's because of pressure.
Wait, the inner core is not liquid or even molten. Oh, okay, I see what he's saying here. So for the same reason that for the same reason that water turns into Ice 7 at the deepest depths of the ocean, because it's being pressed into a specific shape, that's the reason why the core is not molten when the boiling points are different. Yeah, there's no crazy special secret about this. Everybody understands this, and you can test this yourself if you want. I actually, one time, when I was in chemistry classes, I made moonshine because I thought that'd be really cool, you know? Harnessing my my West Virginian roots, I guess you could say. I took basically a boiling flask. I took a big water jug, and I mixed water and sugar and yeast in it. It's called the mash. And I let it sit for a couple of weeks, I think. And then you take it and you pour some into a big boiling flask. You put the boiling flask into oil. You have to have boiling chips in there too, because if you don't have boiling chips, something that air pockets can connect to, then it will explode in an extreme way. It'll explode outward because the liquid becomes superheated and it's trying to boil, but it can't. So anyways, that actually happened to me. It exploded out on me. Luckily, it didn't burn the shit out of me or anything. But yeah, I put it in there in the boiling flask. I put the boiling flask in an oil bath, and I connected a condenser to it the same way I described earlier. Just a little condenser thing, a glass tube that had water that runs through it. And I heated it up to a very specific temperature. Can't be any hotter than that because it will explode. It'll catch fire if you're not careful. So I had to have it at a very specific temperature, and I connected the condenser to it, and out came methanol. That's the first thing to come out. You have to boil the methanol out because that's a certain boiling point. And then after you boil all of the methanol out, which will make you go blind if you drink it. You don't want to drink that. Then you can boil out the ethanol, which is what you're looking for, pure moonshine. I also made laughing gas. That was an interesting little experience. I had a pneumatic trough Basically, I got some cold packs from Walmart. Had ammonium nitrate in them, which creates an endothermic reaction. Anyways, I melted the ammonium nitrate, which is truly dangerous. That's what they use to make ANFO. You ever wonder why people are trying to get fertilizer to make bombs? Fertilizer has ammonium nitrate in it. Anyways, all you have to do is boil it and send it through a pneumatic trough. Instead of a condenser, you send it through water, basically. You send it in a tube through water and connect the other end to like a balloon, and you fill the balloon as it boils, and then you breathe in the laughing gas, and boom, you're done. It's actually fascinating. And yeah, I did that once, but I was having trouble getting it to work properly. I think there was a problem with, like, there was a hole somewhere in the system. It wasn't perfectly airtight. And for that reason, I got a little bit out, and it did make me laugh my ass off for about 15 seconds, but then it kind of went away because I didn't want to fix the hole in the system. Anyway, so getting off on a little tangent there.
There's always there a little excuse to get out of something, but it's crazy. God said he laid foundations of the earth. Let's keep reading.
But it's not an excuse. That's just science. Do you not know basic high school science? You don't have to be a chemist to understand this very basic stuff. What the hell is he talking about?
He literally said to sink them down just like you would. I used to be in construction. We used to have to dig deep foundations. And they were poured very specifically. So he talks about it. Now I need to speed on through here. You see it right?
Yeah, he needs to speed through because nobody cares about his ridiculous presentation on the science of it. No one cares about the science of this. People want to know why you believe this from a biblical perspective.
There to sink, press. Oh, like a seal, too. He talks about the foundations. Now here's 1 Samuel 2:8. This says, he raises up the poor out of the dust. He lifted up the beggar from the dunghill and set them among princes to make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he has set the world upon them. Does that...
Hence the picture that I showed earlier, that he showed earlier. This picture right here. Flat Earth sitting on pillars. This is the most ridiculous picture I think I've ever seen in my life.
Does the heliocentric Copernican model sound like he's setting something on pillars, on a foundation that's stable, not moving, still in at rest?
No. And your model is absurd. He literally depicts the Earth on pillars. On pillars, okay? Does it get more ridiculous than that?
I don't know. See, this is what happened to me. You talk about what happened in the beginning. I just started believing this. I didn't filter it anymore through the world's nonsense. Now, we see the world is still in at rest, and I mentioned a minute ago about the Michelson-Morley experiment. It says Michelson-Morley found the Earth wasn't moving by using the speed of two light beams against one another. The null result was one of the greatest puzzles of physics at the end of the 19th century.
Like, I don't know what he's talking about here. The Earth is moving. I love it how he trusts science selectively. There was one, I mean, I don't even know if this is real, but let's for a second pretend that it was real, okay? Pretend with me. Assuming that this was real, it was a single scientific research paper. Did he even write it into a paper, or was it just like something the guy tried out? Did he have any kind of scientific credibility in the field at all? Why would you trust what this guy said? Is there any reason at all to trust him? And the vast majority of scientists deny what his paper concluded. Instead of looking at the consensus in science, what everybody understands to be the fact, this guy is going with some paper that, if it even existed, was debunked long ago. It's just like, it's insane on so many levels. He selectively picks what he wants to believe and finds a pretext to believe it after the fact. That's what he's doing here.
He says the possibility was that the velocity would be zero and no fringe shift would be expected. But this implies that the Earth is somehow a preferred object. So number one, they discovered that the Earth is really the center, the preferred object of the whole creation. And then he says that it was not what moving. And of course it was, they did find 1/6 movement of, again, only 1/6 of what they said it was supposed to be moving, the speed it's supposed to be moving. They found 1/6, so that's the movement.
Wait, so he's saying they did discover that the Earth was moving? Is that what he's saying? It was just moving slower than scientists thought? I mean, either way, that debunks your understanding of it. And his scientific paper has been debunked anyways.
And again, of the ether current, and I can't get into that.
So I should say disproven. If it's a real scientific article, assuming it is, it's not debunked, it's disproven through peer review.
What they said it was supposed to be moving, the speed it's supposed to be moving, they found 1/6, so that's the movement, again, of the ether current, and I can't get into that.
Yeah, the ether current, he believes that the Earth and space literally has a literal fluid around it. Like the Earth is made up of a fluid, basically. I'm sorry, like the atmosphere around the Earth is made up of a fluid, a superfluid in this guy's mind. Just insane.
But here we go. Let's get some. Here's one of these documents. Now I'm going to read. This is one of these documents I dug up. This is. Let's see which one this is. Oh, there it is. The general equations of motion for a damaged asymmetric aircraft. Now, what's interesting?
Okay, somebody is saying to me, the Michelson, Real Pumpkin J says, the Michelson-Morley experiment was an attempt to measure the relative motion of the Earth and the luminiferous ether, a supposed medium permeating space that was thought to be the center, or the carrier, of light waves. Oh, fascinating. Okay. Well, that's just based on false premises.
General equations of motion for a damaged asymmetric aircraft. Now, what's interesting, this is point 1 and point 2. This is one of my favorites because here in introduction 1, it says, in order to analyze the dynamics of damaged aircraft, the dynamic equations of motion must reflect the underlying physics. Somebody say, must reflect.
What? Okay, in order to analyze the dynamics of damaged aircraft, the dynamic equations of motion must properly reflect the underlying physics. Okay. I get, yeah. If an aircraft is failing because it's not going through the environment correctly, it's not staying in the air or something, then you have to repair it with physics in mind. All right. What are we even reading here? I mean, is this even real? I don't know if this is really from NASA. It claims to be.
The underlying physics. So if they're going to study damaged aircraft and how things happen to it in the sky, it says that the dynamic equations of motion must properly reflect the underlying physics. In the next part, he says, this is just part 2. That was in part 1. He says, in this paper, the rigid body equations of motion over a flat, non-rotating Earth are developed.
Okay, who wrote this? Is this, like, where's your source? All I'm seeing is ntrs.nasa.gov. And that's not even, like, the website that I'm seeing here. I don't understand. Wait, how is it that I'm trying to remember how to do this. Hang on. There's a way to do this. Yeah, that's it. That's how you do it. I knew you could blow a whole bunch of bombs all over the place. Charge your beam up, go into ball form, and bombs just fly all over the place. You can also bomb jump. Bomb jumping in this game is kind of difficult. You have to have your timing exactly correct. Hang on. I'm right at the end of the game, so the timing on this is really hard. Damn it. Okay, just let it sit. All right. No, too fast. Yep, I got it. Bomb jumping can be really difficult. Oh, check this little trick out here. Hang on. Before I go into this next area. Hold on. With Super Metroid. Sorry, I don't know if you guys are interested in this or not, but I'm going to show you anyways. Wait, there's a way to do this. Let me... There it is. Yeah, I knew there was a way to do it. It gives me an ice shield. And if I reactivate my wave, spacer, and plasma, or just wave and plasma, it gives me a plasma ice shield. Haha. It's cool, right? Now if something runs into one of those and they die. Anyways. Couple cool little Metroid tricks, Super Metroid tricks. If you are low on health, like one E-tank left, you can take a bunch of power bombs. I don't remember how many, 5 maybe, and convert those 5 power bombs into health. 1 missile, 1 super missile, 1 power bomb maybe. It's called the Crystal Charge, and I'm not low on health, so I can't show it, but it's pretty cool. Anyway, sorry. Back to what we're listening to.
Equations of motion over a flat, non-rotating Earth are developed.
You would really benefit from the Professor Dave Explains videos. There are so many levels of dumb to the Flat Earth onion. You're missing out. No, I've seen it. Yeah, I've seen Professor Dave Explains. I've seen all of his Flat Earth stuff. I've been prepping on Flat Earth subject for this. I wanted to learn all about it, understand the arguments and the everything before really taking the subject on. So, not just him. There's a lot of stuff, like there are a lot of videos that I wanted to watch to understand what's happening right now. Oh shit, I forgot about the Metroids. I don't know why I forgot about the Metroids when they're like the key enemies here. No! Get off of me, you! He's om-nomming me. He's not gonna leave me alone, really? There we go. Jesus Christ, dude. Okay, any more Metroids? Oh, yep. Oh, God, he got me again. Damn it.
The rigid body equations of motion over a flat, non-rotating Earth are developed. Now, if in point 1 you say that studying this must reflect the true, proper underlying physics, and the next thing you say all of our equations of motion are based on a flat, non-rotating Earth, how else can you read that?
Yeah, I don't know what this guy's talking about. Like, I don't even know if this is real. In fact, I venture as far as to say it's not. I would be willing to take that step and say this guy is making it up.
And if there's not a flat, non-rotating Earth, why would it be in here? Why would this unicorn be here? I'm talking
unicorn?
about the fairy tale unicorns. Unicorns were real, by the way.
Oh my God, dude. Unicorns were real, he says. This guy has problems.
But not the fairy tale unicorn.
You know that, okay, the reason he says unicorns are real is because there's a verse in the King James Bible that specifically mentions unicorns. But I guess he's neglecting to mention the fact that that verse was a mistranslation. It didn't actually belong in there, and it was translated out later in like later editions, later books, or later versions of the Bible or whatever. It was translated out. It was probably a rhinoceros type of... Oh, my God. Really? Oh, come on.
Y'all see that? Let's read it again. In order to analyze the dynamics of damaged aircraft, the dynamic equations of motion must properly reflect the underlying physics. In this paper, the rigid body equations of motion over a flat, non-rotating Earth are developed. So here we have the Bible saying that the Earth does not move, it's stable, it's at rest. We have the Michelson-Morley experiment proving the Earth does not move, that just blew up physics in the end of the early 19th century there. And then, the late 19th century.
Blew up physics because it proved that the Earth doesn't move. Really? Come on, man. This is such a joke, seriously.
And then we have a government document about how damaged aircraft work, and they admit that the proper underlying physics and equations are based on a non-rotating flat Earth. That's 3 witnesses, y'all.
3 witnesses, you know. The 3 witnesses are supposed to be some prophetic thing or whatever. Just absurd, man. Now, let me see if I can find this. Hang on. Rigid body equations of motion referenced to an arbitrary fixed point. It appears that there's a citation listed on nasa.gov, and that citation leads me to general equations of motion for a damaged asymmetric aircraft. Now, what is it that he said originally? In order to analyze the dynamics, all right, let me just search for that and see. Of damaged aircraft, the dynamic equations of motion must properly reflect the underlying physics. This is not a novel problem for the dynamic perspective, since the first payloads have been delivered from aircraft in flight. I'm not seeing what he was pointing out here. Been derived from principles. With the renewed interest in the problem, authors hope to provide a convenient reference for the dynamic equations of motion. What's he pointing out? I don't understand. Did I miss something? Okay, so the next section on this says rigid body equations of motion over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Let's just... Okay, this isn't in here. This is not in the article. Oh, wait. Yeah, here it is. Rigid body equations of motion referenced to an arbitrary fixed point on the body. Okay, so I guess that I'm assuming, without knowing anything about this article or the physics involved or the math involved or any of it, I'm assuming that they put this in here because they have to account for the rotation of the Earth and shape in some cases, but in this specific case, they have to exclude that because of the way that the physics are calculated. I mean, I don't know. This is all math that I don't understand. They're using like summation and possibly integrals. This is calculus that we're looking at here, and I don't know any of this stuff. And there are constants in here that I don't know. I have no idea what this is about or why this is anything. I don't know. Using matrices. And this guy jumps in and says an article on a NASA website says the words flat non-rotating Earth. And that means NASA knows that the Earth is flat and non-rotating, and they're just lying to everybody. Basically, it's easier to suppose the Earth is flat, and equations would be much more complicated without it. Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, so it appears as though my new account is great, is adding some context to this, but it appears as though the equations that we have laid out here on this paper, they're complex. They're using constants and variables that I have no idea what they are. They're using summation, functions, and all kinds of stuff here that are very complex. This is a mix of calculus and advanced algebra. If we do the calculation that accounts for the Earth's size and shape and rotation velocity, it gets a lot more complicated, needlessly. So they're excluding it intentionally because it's not relevant to this specific problem, and it makes the calculations much easier. That's what I'm picking up from this. Okay. It sounds like the guy's just taken this article completely out of context to me, but is anybody surprised by that one?
In the next part, he says, this is just part 2. That was in part 1. He says, in this paper, the rigid body equations of motion over a flat, non-rotating Earth are developed.
Yeah, you have to... God, people clapping for this. You have to exclude the Earth's rotation and shape to make this less complicated, basically, than it needs to be. This is absurd, dude. This guy is a joke.
Now,
I mean, he certainly knows that he's taking this out of context, right? Do you think he knows what he's doing here?
Now, if in point 1 you say that studying this must reflect the true, proper underlying physics, and the next thing you say all of our equations of motion are based on a flat, non-rotating Earth.
Whoa. Wait a minute. What was that he just said? Hang on.
And the next thing you say all of our equations of motion.
All of our equations are based on a non-rotating flat Earth. I don't remember that. I remember that specific thing, not including those calculations because it complicated it needlessly. Van Briggs 333, it's because of the motion of the Earth in correlation with our current position. If you account for the movement of the Earth, then it becomes far more complex. It would add a magnitude of over 1,000 more calculations to account for. Needlessly complex, right?
You say all of our equations of motion are based on a flat, non-rotating Earth. How else can you read that?
Well, I just explained how it's supposed to be properly read. It's supposed to be calculated that way to simplify the equation.
And if there's not a flat, non-rotating Earth, why would it be in here? Why would this unicorn be here?
What is he talking about? Unicorn? What?
I'm talking about the fairy tale unicorns. Unicorns were real, by the way.
This dude is such a joke.
But not the fairy tale unicorn. Y'all see that? Let's read it again. In order to analyze the dynamics of damaged aircraft, the dynamic equations of motion must properly reflect the underlying physics. In this paper, the rigid body equations of motion over a flat, non-rotating Earth are developed. So here we have the Bible saying that the Earth does not move, it's stable, it's at rest. We have the Michelson-Morley experiment proving the Earth does not move, that just blew up physics in the end of the early 19th century there. And then, the late 19th century. And then we have a government document about how damaged aircraft work, and they admit that the proper underlying physics and equations are based on a non-rotating flat Earth. That's 3 witnesses, y'all.
Did you catch what he said again?
And then we have a government document about how damaged aircraft work, and they admit that the proper underlying physics and equations are based on a non-rotating flat Earth.
They didn't say the proper equations. They said the simplified equations. They said we don't need to account for the shape of the Earth or whatever. We don't need to account for it. It's irrelevant. Dude, mother brain is actually pretty simple in most cases, but I'm just hoping that I'm not going to get messed up here. I think I'm going to get messed up. Okay, we're good. All right, continue.
3 witnesses, y'all. Y'all hear me? That's the Bible, true scientists, and a technical manual about aircraft.
A technical manual about aircraft, taken out of context. Totally.
3 witnesses.
Dude, I didn't realize that your missiles were drained also in the rainbow beam attack. Huh.
Now, I know some people love to pull this one out, so I'm going to deal with this. Oh, about the Earth hanging on nothing. What is that talking about? Right, let's just go ahead and get this out of the way.
Yeah, because there's no metaphor in the Bible, right? It says the Earth hangs on nothing. It means the Earth hangs on nothing.
Right? Here's what it is. King James Version says, hail is naked before him, and destruction hath no covering. This is Job 26, 6 and 7. He stretcheth out the north over the empty place, and hangeth the earth upon nothing. Now, the Copernicans, the ones that want to have this space, say, oh, see, that's space. We're hanging on nothing. No, my friend.
Because this is metaphor.
Let's dig a little deeper. Because the Hebrew words bear out what this means, and again, we have to take context. You can't take verse 7, you got to take verse 6. So he's talking about hell or Sheol or the underworld, the underground. What do we...
Sheol just meant death, the grave. It didn't mean hell or the underground. When the word Sheol was being used in the Hebrew or whatever, it was the concept for hell didn't exist. Didn't exist until way later, and it was apocalypticists that popularized the view of hell. A lot of people think it came from Dante, and I actually thought that too. Dante's book, Divine Comedy, the chapter of that book was Inferno. That's not where it came from. It actually came from the Gospel of, it's called the Apocalypse of Peter, not the Gospel. It came from the Apocalypse of Peter, fascinatingly. And it was basically where Peter was given or gave a tour of hell. Again, like it was not part of the original canon. It doesn't belong in canon. It's not part of the original Bible. We gonna save the animals or kill the animals? We gotta determine now. I'm saving them. I love saving the animals. That mother brain is dead now. I'm gonna save the animals. If you didn't know, at the end of this game, you have the option to save the animals or just let them die. The difference, one little speck appears in the game at the very end scene to show that the animals got in their ship and took off after you saved them. And it's actually canon that the animals were saved, though, because they appear in other games. Anyway, we're going to save them. We have a little countdown timer, 3 minutes. I should be okay. I mean, it's been a long time since I've played this, but I'm pretty good at this game, so I think anyways.
And I'm not talking about Dante's degree. I'm talking about Bible degrees. But
Right. Dante did not come up with this. This was the Apocalypse of Peter, where he was given a tour of hell, and disturbingly, it's very vivid in the detail of like what happens to people when they go to hell. Mothers who neglected their children. I'm sorry. I have to tell you, it's for educational purposes. Mothers who neglected or mistreated their children are forced to breastfeed children forever in hell. And the milk just keeps coming out of their breast, basically, is what it says. Anyways, yeah, it's a super disturbing book. I don't know why they detail it that way, but, here we are. That's not the only thing. People who were, like, adulterers also are like, hung by their junk, disturbingly. Damn, I had that. I think it's right here. Yeah. Okay. I knew there was a way to get to the top. You got to do that if you're going to save the animals, because it saves time. Anyway.
We know that we have different words, and there's Tartarus for the deepest part of hell. And then we know that Satan is going to be bound when Jesus returns. Satan's going to be bound and placed in the, somebody say, bottomless pit.
I don't know what verse he's referring to here. Okay, here's where you save the animals. This is where I deviate. I'm going down here, and I basically run to the end. I blast open a door so that they can escape, and then I run back up and get to my ship. Yeah, here we go. See? Just saved the animals, and then they run out. Anyway, I don't know what he's talking about with this verse. Bottomless pit, I don't remember anything about that. Either way, hell didn't exist in Jesus' day. Like, it didn't really appear until hundreds of years later in our current understanding of it. Jesus believed in heaven, and hell was a concept that would come around later. But Jesus did believe demons were like roving around Earth, harassing people and stuff. So I guess it just kind of depends on what point you are in history when hell is accepted. But Jesus didn't accept it, to my knowledge. Anyway, here it is. The planet explodes, and watch on the right side. You'll see a little pixel fly away from the planet. Watch. And it's the animals. Boom. And then I fly away. There's my ship, and here, watch for the pixel. There's the pixel, little purple thing. You see it? We're flying away from the planet. Anyways, I win. Yeah, that was a good game. I'll play Metroid Fusion next.
Bottomless pit, which is in hell, which is the lowest part of hell. Okay?
He's conflating with the abyss that Satan will be thrown into after Armageddon. Okay, I wasn't sure where that came from, what he was saying here.
Now,
wasn't the idea of hell adapted from Zoroastrianism? That's possible. Zoroastrianism is responsible, I believe, for the idea of duality. Zoroastrians actually still exist as a religion, I think, and it's like a Mesopotamian/Indian kind of religion. It really pushed the idea of duality, good and evil, fighting against each other forever. The idea of hell probably came about because people were incorporating that aspect, the duality, into the religion heavily. So, yeah. It was actually really deeply affected, Christianity was, by all of the other religions in the region. Let's see, what was it? I got your rate for collecting items is 98%. I knew it was going to be about 98. There were 2 missile packs I forgot. See you next mission. I got all the super missiles, all the power bombs, but missed 2 missile packs. Oh, and I got all the E-tanks and reserve tanks also. Wonder where those 2 missile packs were that I missed. That's a shame.
What this here is saying, and let's go, the Amplified does it really well. But
why is he going to Amplified again? I don't understand. Dude jumps between Amplified and King James and a billion other translations. He even goes into the original language and translates himself when it's convenient, and doesn't do it when it's inconvenient.
Amplified does it really well, but the Amplified Bible, and looking at the original Hebrew word here, when it says he stretches out the north over the empty place where he hangs the earth upon nothing, when it says the word for upon clarifies this question about the earth allegedly hanging upon nothing. An empty place is the word tohu. Now, tohu in Hebrew, tohu vabohu, was used in the creation when it says the earth was without form and void and darkness covered the deep. Well, if you look this word up, it means a desolation, destruction, chaos. And I can't get into all that right there. But he says that it's pronounced tohu, right, is chaos, wilderness, waste, confusion, a place of vanity or emptiness. The Hebrew word here, upon, is all, which can be translated above or over. And so in the Amplified, it says, Sheol, the place of the dead, is naked before God, and Abaddon, the place of destruction, has no covering for his eyes. It is he who spreads out the northern skies over the emptiness and hangs the earth over nothing.
Okay, so he's arguing against the verse that says that the earth is hanging on nothing. And he says it's spread out. We've already heard him argue that when the Bible says it's spread out, he means spread out like flat, like a plate, rather than spread out like space is spreading out at all, at every moment and everywhere. So I'm assuming he's going to argue that when it says spread out, it means flat like a plate.
See, this is what we believe. Nobody knows how deep the earth is. God said the heaven for height and the earth for depth, nobody would know. It's unsearchable, unknowable.
Okay, I don't remember that, but whatever.
The deepest hole ever dug is about 8 miles. The Russians did it. We don't know anything beyond that.
Okay, the Marianas Trench, the deepest part of the Challenger Deep area of the ocean, is 35,876 feet deep. How many feet are there in a mile? 5,128, I think. Am I right on that? Let's see. How many feet in a mile? 5,280. I was close. Okay, that's almost 7 miles, so we don't even have to dig. We can just go down to the Marianas Trench, which, weirdly, the director of the movie Titanic has done, James Cameron. But I'm assuming this guy doesn't even believe that, right?
But at some point, down there in hell, there is nothingness. There's a place of vanity and emptiness. There's a bottomless pit where Satan's going to be chained for 1,000 years. And God stretched it out. And if you guys saw my...
No metaphor in the Bible. It says bottomless pit. Does that mean there's literally no bottom and you just fall forever? Is that what he's saying? By the way, in this game, I was invaded by these little, parasites? They're called X-parasites until they are given a proper name. I think you just call it the X-parasite all through the game. They had to cut my suit off of me to save my life, basically, and my body was mutated. This is what I look like now, without my suit. Samus survived, reborn as something different. So now I'm instructed to try to kill to destroy the station, basically, to kill the X before they get out and invade the rest of the galaxy, pretty much.
Mountain of God in the North and Paradise series, some of you, if you haven't seen that, you need to watch it. You understand that God's throne is right above the North Star. The North Pole is right there, and where we're taught the Bible.
God's throne's above the North Star. I love it. Even though the North Star has, of course, changed over the years. It used to be something else. Now it's Polaris. In the future, I think it's going to be Vega.
The Bible shows us that it's really underneath. Underneath there is where paradise and hell starts, right there. So it makes sense. This verse makes sense when you know the truth of the shape of the earth and the nature of things. But
not really. It said there's going to be a bottomless pit, but it also says the earth sits on pillars. And the fact that he found that verse about the earth sitting on pillars leads him to believe this is a real, actual depiction to scale or something of the earth sitting on pillars. The pillars are the most ridiculous part of the equation, in my opinion. The most ridiculous part of this image. But the fascinating thing about this whole worldview is that it affects everything. Everything. When you stop accepting that the earth is a globular spheroid or an oblate spheroid, when you stop accepting that the earth is rotating and it's going around the sun and all that stuff, everything changes. You suddenly don't trust anything that has been said by anybody ever. Like, did James Cameron even go to the Challenger Deep? Do we even have submarines that can go that deep? You gotta question, like, literally everything, and you get conspiracy brain to a degree not seen in any other industry. It's wild. That is Greg Locke and Dean Odel's debate. Absolutely absurd. Let me know what you think in the comments.